Afternoon, lads. This week we're going to be talking about some philosophy and a few tips and tricks around travel photography and videography. Let's get into it. Okay, somewhere there. One of the first things I want to talk about is sort of the minimalist mindset. Now, it might sound unrelated to tips and tricks, but I'll explain. So when you're starting out, I 100% guarantee you're going to go through something called gear acquisition syndrome. You're going to watch all these videos, you're going to see all this advice from people, and you're going to think that you need to buy all this stuff to do the most basic of photography. You think you're going to need all these lenses, filters, drones, second drones, drone batteries, polarizing filters for the drone. The list goes on and on and on. How do I know this? Because I did it. We all do it, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. Even though I'm telling you not to do this, you're probably going to do it. So just don't feel bad. It's part of the process. I digress. Now, the reason I'm talking about this minimalist mindset is because it has such a drastic impact on how you take your photos and your overall experience while you're out doing it. Until you've clocked like a 25,000 step hike or walked around a city all day with a 15 to 35, a 24 to 70, a 70 to 200, 2 camera bodies, a tripod, all this stuff on your back. Until you've done that, you won't understand this sucks. My mindset is destroyed. I'm just agitated because you constantly feel like you don't want to stop, you don't want to change lenses, you don't want to put different filters on for different effects. It's just cumbersome and you just don't enjoy yourself. So my point, my main tip, my main takeaway from this section of this video, the lighter your kit, the more intentional you are with what you take when you go out to shoot, the more free you're going to feel to create things. Like I said, unfortunately, this is a step that I think that everybody has to sort of go through at one point. Everyone's going to go through this process of buying all this stuff that they don't need before they realize, I don't need this to get what I need to do. And then you end up stripping it down to the absolute bare essentials that you need to do the job. In my old profession, me and the lads used to do this game called the 3-tool rule, where we'd rock up to a job and we would limit each of ourselves to 3 tools only. And if we couldn't do the job with those 3 tools, honestly, it wasn't worth doing. You can improvise, you can adapt, you can make tools, you can do whatever you have to do to get the job done, but don't go and get more tools. There are a few videos on my channel specifically about this topic because I think it is so important to get it right in order to enjoy your craft. If you don't enjoy it, the result's not going to be as good. So in saying that, it leads me to the next point, the gear. So if you're just starting out, or even if you've been doing this for a while and you just sort of want to watch to see what I do and compare it to yourself, you might agree with what I'm about to say. Megapixels just don't really count. I've shot weddings for over 7 years, a lot of them with the R6, which is what, 24 megapixel, and the prints are fine. It's totally fine. You just need to ask yourself, what are you doing with these photos? Are they going on billboards? Probably not. Most of them are going on social media. For that case, 24 megapixels is totally fine. Obviously, higher megapixels really help, particularly for large-scale prints. And if you want to get into that line of work, obviously don't listen to what I'm saying here. But for the vast majority of people who are just going to use these photos for social media, little coffee books for themselves, don't get too hung up on thinking that you need to get the absolute best camera. I wouldn't go getting too hung up on, dynamic range, megapixel count, IBIS, different in-body filters that you get when you purchase different cameras. All that stuff's fantastic. I'm not going to say don't get it. Obviously, all that stuff helps create, but sometimes the more you peel away, the more you get back. So the simpler you can make things, especially when you're starting out, the more likely you are to sort of continue on with it. If you make it way too hard and way too complicated from the get-go, most times you're just going to give up. So if you like taking photos of your friends or your family and you're at cafes and you like going out to bars and stuff, taking a big camera like this, like the R5 or an R1 or some sort of camera similar to that with a big sort of professional lens on it, taking that to that sort of environment is probably not the play. What you're looking for is something like Fuji X100 V6 or the Lumix S9, like those sort of small compact bodies with fixed lenses. If you're really balling, you could grab like a Leica Q2, like something like that that you're gonna be able to get out of your bag, take photos, and it not feel so obtrusive. Like people aren't gonna look at you and go, why has this dude got this massive camera in this cafe? The more you can eliminate that sort of feeling of being obtrusive and be more discreet with your photography, the better you're gonna be. If on the other hand, you're really into like sort of landscape work, architecture, stuff like that, then yeah, you probably are gonna want a more professional rugged body like an R5, R6. I don't know the Sony ones. What are they? The A7V something, whatever they are. So like a more professional line rugged body with an interchangeable lens system, that's probably the play if you're going down that road, if you're really into it. I use Canon. I've shot on them for like nearly a decade, I think 7, 8 years at least, primarily because I am a wedding photographer and I needed something reliable with a good lens system that is pretty renowned for their durability. And that's why I use Canon. They basically all make fantastic cameras nowadays. You can't really go wrong. It's just more now than ever a point I'm trying to get across of asking what type of photography are you actually trying to take? Answering that will help you decide what type of camera you're gonna get. Lenses, if you're serious about travel photography and videography like I am, then lenses are incredibly important. And if you are moving past that point and shoot style camera to the more interchangeable lens type cameras, then lenses are incredibly important, your lens selection. And this does go back to largely what I was saying about being intentional with the lenses that you choose to take with you. Because the last thing you want to do is take absolutely every lens you have with you on every hike and every walk and you end up breaking your back. This is kind of what I've condensed my kit down to now. It's not to say this is what you should do, but I just sort of take these 4 lenses with me everywhere I go. I take a 16mm prime. That's just kind of for all day, every day. I take this with me. It's super light and I can use it and be pretty discreet with my photography. And then if I like something enough, I'll come back with one of my more pro lenses. I will say, I got this lens primarily for like vlogging, this sort of stuff, not necessarily for photography, because you are going to get a bit of perspective kind of warp in your image. So if I was going to get a lens primarily for photography, sort of all day purpose, I would sort of float between that 24 to 35mm range. 35mm is really good for portraiture and 24mm is pretty good for everything. You're not really going to go wrong there. So I'd probably get one of those primes as opposed to the 16. I take a 15 to 35mm f2.8, I'm filming on it now. Anything that I want to do sort of professional level landscape or architecture work with, I use it for all of my weddings. I use it for all of my videos like this. 24 to 70, now this would be the ultimate sort of all day lens. You put this on your camera, you'll be pretty much good for everything. It's pretty big, about the same size as this 15 to 35, but the images that you're gonna get out of this are just as good as any sort of prime, in my opinion. It's f2.8 constant all the way through, fantastic lens. Now the 70 to 200, that's my favorite lens of all time. I purchased the f2.8 version from Canon, which was way more expensive. And I did this because it's roughly the same size as my 24 to 70. The size and weight saving that you're gonna get from spending that little bit of extra money is worth every single cent. And the images that come out of this lens are next to none. I use it for every single wedding. I take it with me everywhere in the world. This lens is God tier. This might sound like a lot of glass and lenses that I take with me, but between me and my wife, I'll take 2 lenses, she'll take 2 lenses, and then you've only got 2 lenses each. I understand if you were by yourself, taking all 4 of these lenses would be a bit of a mission, but for us, that's the most minimalist we can travel with. I tend to sort of go to a place and walk around with the 16mm prime or the 24 to 70 sort of all day and just capture what interests me. And if it interests me enough, I'll come back with, say, the 70 to 200 or 15 to 35 or one of my pro lenses and capture it better. Whatever you can do to limit the amount of time that you're walking around with your full kit on your back, do it. Let's get into sort of the tips and tricks, if you will, of this video. Now, the initial question I have might sound super basic. What kind of photography are you actually drawn to? It might sound super basic, but answering this question sort of dictates the tips and tricks that you're going to take away from this video. This might sound super basic and like a stupid question to ask, because travel photography sort of encompasses an enormous amount of genres. But answering it and thinking about what you're actually drawn to, like what you feel comfortable shooting, is going to really make this a more pleasant experience for you. Street photography and architecture. So if you're really drawn to street photography, trying to capture people in their elements, you know, street food markets, cafes, cars, that sort of stuff, like I am, you can achieve it, in my opinion, in two ways. The first way is to be as inconspicuous as you can possibly be. And it's easier to achieve this with sort of a point and shoot or a prime lens where you don't have this massive camera body swinging off you, pointing it at people all day long. That's one way. If you're looking for a great example of this, you can look up Vivian Maier. She's an amazing photographer. And she used a Rolleiflex twin lens reflex. Now, because she's shooting with it sort of down here and looking down at the lens throughout the day, for that reason, a lot of people don't realize that she's not doing this. She's not pointing the camera at people all day, so they don't even know that they're being photographed. And for that reason, a lot of her work is a lot more inconspicuous, discreet. There's obviously the moral dilemma of this, of you could be photographing people and they don't even know it. But you can do with that what you will. You can achieve this obviously with these modern cameras by just holding it down here, flipping out the LCD and doing a similar effect. Just walking around shooting like this all day. Another way, a way that I like, is with a 70-200 or a sort of telephoto lens, because you can be sort of far back and move and zoom in and compress, and you're not really getting in people's face, you're not being obtrusive, you're pretty discreet, and you're getting a much more beautiful image. So those are the two ways. Another method is to use sort of vintage glass, i.e. the Helios 44M. I use this a lot. I've done a lot of videos on this lens, if you've been following this channel. It's one of my favorite lenses of all time. Using lenses like this yields a sort of aesthetic that you get from like old films. A lot of shots are going to be out of focus. You'll get varying effects like lens flares, distortion, aberrations. You'll get all these effects, these defects in the image. But that's what makes it. That's what makes it wabi-sabi. Moving on to landscapes and architecture. Think, you know, Lake Louise, the Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, that sort of stuff. This is where you're probably going to want your wide lens to capture the maximum amount of the scene that you're looking at. Now again, I'm drilling this into you. Stop, look at your scene and ask yourself, what's the story that I want to tell here in this image? Answering this will dictate how and what lens and filter you use to do said photo. If you're looking at a lake and you go, geez, this is really peaceful. I really want to convey the peace that I'm feeling here at this lake. A good way to do that would be to put an ND filter on your camera, crank it to infinity, and make the water have a glassy, misty effect. That's the type of thing I'm talking about. You could just stand there, click, looks great. But if you want to take it to that next level where you're conveying the feeling, I mean, all great art, no matter if it's paintings, photography, whatever it is designed to transport you or the viewer somewhere else. So when I'm saying stop, assess, look at what you're doing, it's because how do you want people to feel when they look at your images? If you want people to feel that peace and serenity from that lake, then that's a good way to do it. If you're looking at the Eiffel Tower, for example, and you want a big wide shot and you want all the windows to look sort of soft, glowy, cinematic, then a mist filter is probably the play, because it's going to really bloom all of your highlights and make the image look quite nostalgic. This is obviously an effect and it's not for everyone. What do you like? What do you want the image to look like? Whatever filter you slap on front of this lens, it's baked in there. It's there for life. Other things you can do, you know, if you're like say at a busy crossing, like Shibuya crossing in Tokyo, for example, where there's like an enormous amount of people that are doing this crossing, and you want to convey just how busy that is, then you can do tricks like drag shutter, where you slow your shutter right down, and then you'll get like kind of a ghosty, wispy effect of all the people. So it helps if you isolate a subject, like a person that's standing still, and then get everyone to come through, and it gives you the effect, the illusion, if you will, that there's a lot of movement in the scene. If it's a massive open landscape and you really want to give that perspective, then you can take, 5 to 10 shots, stitch them in post and have a massive panoramic photo. These kind of fell off because of social media, I feel. Like you could never really put a panoramic shot on Instagram and have people be stoked about it. But I myself don't even use Instagram anymore, so having that ability and revisiting that technique lately has been really good for me, because I feel like they're really good for, if you want to put it on your wall or you want to put it in a coffee table book and you really want to actually show off art, then it's a fantastic technique. And then with regards to minimalism and travel photography, ultimately it is all just weight at the end of the day. If you're in Australia, you only get like 7 kilos carry-on, so if you travel with camera gear, you'll know that that's absolutely nothing. So condensing your kit and focusing on what you actually need to do your job, can't stress it enough. I've said it a million times in this video. That's the key. Avoid these kind of pitfalls and sort of focus on photos that you're interested in taking. You, no one else, just you. That's when you're going to really start to skyrocket and improve your photography. I really hope this helped someone or just gave a little bit of insight. I know it's not packed with full-on in-camera tips and tricks. It's more philosophical, which I guess is the route that I'm taking, because I just don't really care about the techniques of a camera. Like, once you know how to use a camera, it's not rocket science. Yeah, that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll talk to you in the next one, lads. Slainte Mhath. Be good.